Hello, my name is John Binnick, and this is my CS2316 project and analysis of professional baseball. I chose this subject as I'm a baseball fan and would be interested in working for a team in the future as a quantitative analyst, a job that has become more relevant over the recent years. I think this presentation will be a good representation of how the game is changing for better or worse, as some of these things would be pretty difficult to see without the data to support it. With that being said, I hope you enjoy. We will first look at how I procured the data, then look at the average MLB team distributions, discuss the growing trend through the previous decades and what may be causing it, speed versus spin, and several batting statistics. We will conclude with a look at some of the previous season's box plots and discuss who may win this season's World Series. Using a baseball API, I was able to get each team's ID, which will later be needed to get each team's roster. I also need to get each team's record and map it to the specific year to avoid duplication. For this, I originally planned to use a popular baseball analytics website, but that was blocked from scraping and required a payment of $1,000 to get access to, so I decided just to scrape Wikipedia using Beautiful Soup. I needed to set it up so I can get each individual season and get the data I was looking for. From that, I was able to create a dictionary containing the years as keys and a list containing tuples of each team and the record for that season. Here is our first insight and visualization. As we can see here, the average team has a record of 500 with roughly 7% standard deviation. I decided to throw out the 1981-2020 seasons as they were both unique and would possibly contain outliers. We can see at the top of the visualization there is a dip near the middle of the curve, meaning it's more likely to not be exactly 500 than the other points beside 500. The reason being is unclear. However, by looking at our second insight, we can infer some reasons why. This is a pie chart that tallies the teams that lie outside the 1 standard deviation mark by each decade. With the exception of the 1970s-1980s relationship, this number has grown. Currently, the 2020s are on pace to break the last decade's numbers easily. Remember that the 2020 season is excluded from this data. So what may be causing this? Well, in 2002, the Oakland A's experimented and started Moneyball, and their success may be a reason why teams have since turned to using data over the last 2 decades and found themselves away from average. And it's possible that this trend continues where the teams get better and better, whereas the worst teams get worse, continuing to cause a double-humped bell curve as seen in the previous chart. Before we discuss specific statistics, here's some more code needed to organize my data better. First, I had to attach the team ID to the teams, then I need to get the rosters. I downloaded complete player datasets from Baseball Savant and turned them into data frames, one for pitching and one for batting. I then masked those to get the players who met a series of requirements and would represent the bulk of that team's data statistics. By no means is this a perfect exact replica of the team's season and statistics, but is as close as I can get without special access to the MLB's official API, which is not available to anyone outside the league. This process was the most tedious and by far the greatest challenge I faced, as the datasets I downloaded only had player names and years along with their statistics, not any teams associated with the players. Therefore, when using the same team and player names repeatedly, I had to pay extra attention to make sure I had no duplicates or missing values that would corrupt my data. But now we can look at some charts. Recently, teams have been exploring how breaking ball spin can add wins when compared to fastball speed. Here in our third insight and second visualization, we see a heat map representing speeds and a density contour chart representing spin. With our heat map, there is a bright spot between 500 and 600. However, the brightness remains pertinent all the way down to about a 300 record. Whereas with the density contour chart, we see again a high density between 500 and 600. But we can also see a bulge to the upper right, indicating there is some reason to believe it may be used to gain an edge. This year, new rules have been put in place to ensure pitchers are not caught using illegal substances to grip the ball better in an effort to create more spin. Clearly, this is a subject the MLB is watching and will be interesting to watch over the next few years. Moving to batting statistics, I wanted to look at two statistics that benefit teams and two that have little effect. First, let's look at on-base percentage. This was the statistic that the 2002 Moneyball A's focused on. It is, put simply, the percent chance a player gets on base. Going one step further, we can look into OPS, which takes on-base percentage and adds slugging percentage, a number that represents the amount of bases earned per at-bat, to get a more complete representation of a batter's capabilities. There is another form of OPS called OPS Plus, which I could not find for these datasets, which standardizes each player's OPS. This statistic is often viewed as one of, if not the most important, when evaluating a player's skill at the plate, and clearly seems to improve the team's odds of winning. While on-base percentage and OPS are related and known to lead to more team success, the same cannot be said for a player's age. This may be due in part to a manager's discretion, but there have also been quite a few players who put up career numbers nearing their age 40, showing it's possible to play well at any time. A statistic that may be controversial would be stolen bases. One may figure that positioning yourself closer to home plate may bring more success, but this appears to be misleading. This may be due in part to extra base hits and home runs scoring runners from any base, making the art of stealing bases a tad overrated. To conclude, I decided to see where the World Series winner was positioned in each year's standings. Here we have box plots from the last 9 complete seasons and this current season. Since 2013, 4 of the last 9 World Series winners have been the best team overall, while 3 of the league's best teams have lost in the World Series. There was a tie in 2013 for the best record overall. But don't think that only upper-tier teams can win. 3 of the last 9 winners have not placed above the 75th percentile, meaning there's still plenty of room for an underdog story. With the current 2022 season just about halfway over, the pennant is still anyone's to take, but there are really only 3 teams with the chance of grabbing this year's number 1 overall seed and the improved odds of making the World Series, those being the Los Angeles Dodgers, New York Yankees, and Houston Astros. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you for watching.